on.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Week 1 at long last. Andy, you got to go down to SoFi today. Check out the digs. Our house hosting the Bills tomorrow. I don't know if you know about that, but it is the kickoff of the NFL 2022 campaign. Kind of a big deal. And we get to break down an entire week 1 handicap for the NFL. I could not be more excited. How is your Wednesday and what is one of the more fun weeks of the year?
It feels, again, week 2 of not cramming in a bunch of golf bets at the last minute, like thinking about like, all right, if I drive home and then I run some more daily numbers and I do my week or my day 1 golf bets tonight, I got to get them in the Discord. That'll be a challenge as I get back. They are playing in beautiful Napa next week, but no, it's a nice little respite from golf for 2 weeks. It's not a real good tournament, but it's a real nice looking tournament. Visually, it's a great place to play.
Silverado Country Club?
Silverado, exactly.
Man.
And yes, the ball will be kicked
so hot.
in less than 24 hours. It's warm here today, too. I went for a walk, wore a black shirt. Big mistakes, both of those. But yes, we're going to jump right into this because I have to get home and pack and then leave the house at like 4:30 in the morning.
You're going to Vegas.
I got to get to Vegas. I got things to do. I still got some contests to sign up for. I got some people to shake hands with. Got some drinks to imbibe in, some cabanas to occupy, and some food to eat. God, there's good food out there.
Okay.
I'll take some pictures. But yes, we will start. Let's start.
That's turning into my more favorite part. Well, my favorite part is the networking. My second favorite part is now the food.
Yeah. It's Morbin time.
Yeah, it's Morbin time. My third...
I don't know how to use that right. So
that's a correct usage. Correct usage is the more abstract, the more ridiculous, the better. It's also, the sitting at Circa watching football on Sunday is going to be incredible. Cannot wait. Couple of housekeeping notes. We will do these Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, as long as I am more timely going forward. Hats off to the graphics and design team for the incredible new intro. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that means you are not watching us on YouTube, which shame on you. Come watch us live. Come chat with these sharp folks who are in the chat live. You will find news, nuggets, notes, angles, tips that go beyond what you hear on this podcast, so it is well worth your time.
A lot of smart folks in the chat. That has been a highlight these last couple of years, is that community has grown.
And of course, if you are joining us in our original old school podcast format, we will do our damnedest to make sure you continue to get the highest quality sound. And if you want to jump between previews, be sure to check the notes, as we'll have timestamps, because we are going through this in a very, very, carefully managed way by rotation number. If this is your first time ever listening to the Deep Dive podcast and you're wondering what in the hell is going on here because you caught our team previews this summer, welcome. We go from Thursday Night Football and then from Sunday by rotation number through the full card. There will be some games where we have no opinions and we just comment on what the market said or did and blow right on by. And there will be some where we spend a good 10 minutes navel gazing about why things are the way they are. For the most part, we will have made most of our bets by the time we record this podcast on a Wednesday. And we will be commenting in general about how the market has reacted to our action, more so than we will be saying, here are bets that I would make at this current number. It will largely be Tuesday when limits went up, I bet blank. This move happened. I'm opposite, so I was the resistance. That will be the general tone of our sides and totals handicap of all games. Don't expect.
Well, I get talked into something here. Sometimes I have, like the ones that you leave in your pocket. Some of those I do want to either wait for injury news. Honestly, more likely, I'm waiting for injury news than waiting to talk to you. But talking to you helps. That's always a big part of my process. This is a part of my process. This is definitely a big part of it. And
100%.
I'm excited too.
100%.
Excited to dive in, baby.
Yeah. And the only promise I will make as far as if you are coming here for picks is that we will give you a team total secret podcast play that you can only find if you listen to the pod. So a little Easter egg for you, hardcore podcast listeners. I've already got one in mind.
And I mean, there are always going to be. There's always going to be bets that just, hey, we bet it hasn't moved yet. I have a couple of those where
of course
still get the exact same.
I see at least 3 on the board. I would bet this moment. Yeah. And we will get there. But without further ado,
let's start with the world champs and the should have been world champs. The Bills are, and this is going to be a theme as we go through this week, are a road favorite. Boy, there are some road favorites to start out the season. Small road favorite, total down to 51.5. This is our Thursday night opener. I'll be watching this at Circa. When are you getting out?
We'll have to talk about that off the air.
Oh, are you coming?
I am. I'll be there.
Okay.
I will be there. All
right. Sounds good. Well, we're going to have to figure this. So second off, we have to figure out the halftime shows. And again, maybe you were a newer listener. Maybe you caught the season previews and now here we do have halftime shows.
Yes.
Of primetime games where we will get, you want to pick? We're going to give you a pick there because we bet every halftime of every primetime game. Unless
I'm assuming you're joining via phone tomorrow from Vegas. I can orchestrate.
Yeah, I haven't quite. I mean, I'll have my camera and shit up in the room, but I probably won't want to walk back to the room. So I'll find a quiet corner. Maybe I'll be at Saginaw's. I don't know.
Yeah, just turn it up, man.
I'll hop in. I'll grab a sandwich.
Yeah. Give us the full spirit of the experience. Okay. Kickoff tomorrow is Bills at Rams. You mentioned the total move today, which was interesting because this total was at 52 and a half this morning. So there has been a little bit of momentum to the under of late. And I don't get that. I don't really see an edge here. Yeah.
The total moved this much because of Van Jefferson. Now we have some Van Jefferson issues. He's going to miss time, but I mean, I get some of the buyback. There was a group that pushed this up a little, or a release or a group, however we want to put it, that pushed this up week and a half ago. Instant buyback once it hit 53 and a half. Mm-hmm. And then, a bit of a move today. And again, it wasn't likely just Van Jefferson. That probably didn't hurt. That was a nice little nudge, but coming down again. So it's an interesting move because I don't have a ton of opinions on this total today.
Okay, so let's talk about the game itself. The market has had 4 months to chew on this one.
Yeah.
It's had 4 months to really think hard about how two Super Bowl favorites match up against each other. And in that time, we have seen the favorite flip from Rams to Bills. The Bills have steamed out to 2.5. The move from Pick'em to 2.5, that never really raises my eyebrows. I just kind of shrug and say, okay, somebody like the favorite, somebody like that side a lot. There's not enough equity crossing 1 and 2 that you would really raise your eyebrows and be like, did you see that, Andy? It went from Pick'em to 2.5, a 2.5 point move. Until it gets to 3, it doesn't really make news for me personally. Total similarly, 51 is a key number in the NFL, 54 quasi, 53 quasi. So the fact that this has kind of been bouncing around in the dead zone, I don't think you can take a ton away from, which means the market is telling you these are fair prices. If you want to go have a bet for fun, that's fine. But I don't think that there is a strong edge to be had on either side or total at current numbers. As we have gone through this offseason, the Bills offense potentially downgraded because of the change at offensive coordinator, although I'm not really buying that. Bills offense potentially upgraded with acquisitions and draft capital at running back. Bills offensive line has a gaping hole at left guard that Aaron Donald could potentially cause a problem facing. But I think you just solve that by putting a couple extra hats on him. And then your skill position players at wide receiver match up very well against CB2, CB3, and the safety group for this Rams team. So basically, you just need to kind of put figure out where Jalen Ramsey is on any play and throw away from him if you're Josh Allen. I think they can figure that out. I think the Bills offense is going to be fine. And on the flip side, I think you can make an argument that the Rams offense is upgraded, even though the offensive line a little less strong.
Yeah, I mean, Whitworth, I want to like shit on it and say he was old, but he was still good. But the note boom thing, I'm probably fine with the offensive line at its current ranking. And really, the main concern I had about this whole team was the tendonitis in the elbow. That's nasty. I know some people who've had that, and I've seen them have a lot of trouble doing daily tasks with the arm that's suffering, much less throwing a football accurately and with enough force to get there in the right amount of time. So I guess a lot of uncertainty around that, but it seems to be fine. Modern medicine / what they can inject into a person's arm right before a game probably has me a lot less worried about that. I like what you said about the matchups. A big matchup advantage that Buffalo's going to have that's not their offense is probably going to be this pass rush. They had a good pressure rate last year. And that's the thing. You can look at blitz rate. You can look at sacks. You can look at a lot of different things. I do prefer pressure rate because it kind of evaluates everything on a level playing field of just like, here's all the plays. Maybe you brought a blitz, maybe you didn't. Maybe things went wrong for them. Maybe things went right for you. You're looking at the big sample and seeing what kind of pressure rate they had. If you can find a team that has an extensive history of good pressure rates over the past year, and then brings back pretty much the same kind of nucleus or the game plan, what have you, all of it, and they're going against like a Bears, a Seahawks, Steelers, a bad offensive line. It's all going to be a little subjective there once you start looking at the rest of it, but that's a big advantage, and I think we're going to take advantage of that a little with teams like the Bills this year, but not to be. I think they can slow that down. I think both sides probably can slow down what makes these pass rushes / front sevens, effective. And really, I am a little curious that this total is ticking down because I've seen a Rams offense that really clicked at times and two smart coaches. And honestly, I give the coaching advantage to McVay. I've seen too much of too many games last year. When you go back and look at it, it's like, this might have been the coach's fault, like that they lost this game.
Oh, sure.
And might is a light word. So I did tease Rams, the 2.5. The 2.5, I put them with the Vikings. I'm jumping ahead.
That's fine.
I mean,
it's not the sexiest teaser leg of all time, but you're talking about a banner night for a team at home catching outside of a touchdown. That's a pretty damn appealing teaser leg if I've ever seen one.
I think they're very, very live on offense. I think they're going to keep this close. And I love this teaser leg, even with a little bit of a higher total. So I did tease this, and that is about all I'm going to touch outside of God bless some hearts. I'm going to bet some first touchdown scores. I already bet Josh Allen. I'll be in the air. So tomorrow for Brown Bag, we won't be there to give out first touchdown scores, but Noops is putting his card together as we speak, and he's going to send it in. So tomorrow morning, if you like Alex's first touchdown, he did well last year.
He did very well with those.
He does well with those.
Although I cracked his system.
Oh, Noops sent them in already. Dan already has them.
I cracked his system. I can pretty much tell you what he. I'm not going to spoil it, but I think I know what he already got. I think. Yeah,
he comes out and says it. Here's my system, and then also shop around because here's a tight end that's 8-1 everywhere, and for some reason Caesars has 15. Like, if you just do that all year, you're probably going to make some money if you find the right guys. So Dan is like the guy at the Oscars with all the winners. He has this in his possession already.
Yeah. The last note I have on this game, the first half total feels a titch high, 25.5, considering what the note we made, where the only obvious advantage I can give unit wise is what you brought up, which was Buffalo's pass rush against Rams O-line. And if that manifests pressure early, if the Buffalo Bills defense is getting 3 and out stops early, then I think you could see a little bit of a grind from them out of the gate. And that would manifest one of two things from a game state standpoint, in my opinion. If the Bills are clicking offensively early, if they are finding wide receiver, weapons 2, 3, 4, because Diggs is doing a good job of, gravitating Jalen Ramsey into his orbit, and Josh Allen is going through his progressions well. I could see the Bills getting out to a strong start and being up like 14-3, something like that, as we are kind of heading into for halftime, at which point I think we're going to have some fun angles to bet into the second half, because I really do like the adjustments that McVay made in game, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And we know that the Buffalo Bills don't take their foot off the gas. They continue to try to pour it on. So it'll be a decent opportunity to get involved with a live over if we have a little bit of a slow start to this game. So that is what I am hoping for.
Yeah, there's several game states that are very conducive to the Bills need to score 21 this half.
Yeah,
the Bills will have an opportunity to continue to score.
Yeah,
and an over 24 is not going to look so daunting.
Yeah,
over. What do you think we get? Maybe an over 27.
Let's say it's 14-3 at halftime. What are your lines for the second half? Rams -3 over 24. 14-3 Buffalo.
Buffalo's up 14. Rams -3.5 with light juice. Like I dare you to take it by making it -3.5 plus 105.
Okay.
And then 26.5.
Okay. Yeah, I think 28's fair. So I would
Juice
play that
to
over still. No, I think I would still play that over. We'll have some fun conversations because that's where I see this game heading in general. But going to be a fun one. Very excited for this game. Let's move on to Sunday.
Yes. I am going to be, I don't know where I'm going to sit for these, but I'm going to sit and watch football all fucking day. Saints at the Falcons. Maybe not the sexiest one to start out with, but we do have high hopes for the Saints, as you mentioned in the preview. We have high hopes for the Falcons to be a smart team who tanks while still working on your up and coming tight end and some of these other good pieces. I did talk to somebody about this. The Falcon, if you had to pick the unit group on either side of the ball that was strongest for the Atlanta Falcons, what would you pick?
Secondary because of AJ Terrell, maybe.
Yeah, they don't have a bad unit outside of him, and he's obviously a solid CB1.
So, I mean, their tight end group, I guess. Does that count?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's that, or you just say Pitts. So
okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it is a nice group. If you have anything to hang your hat on, it is maybe you'll be able to cover stuff. So I think probably some angles to be looked at as far as Kamara catches over or something along those lines. So if you want to just, have your way underneath, I think you probably can, especially with a guy like that. If you want to just say, we're not going to waste our time hitting our head against the wall against Terrell. Like, hey, there's 40 paths and the one is blocked by AJ Terrell. Should we go in one of these other 39 instead? So that's the, outside of the fact that it is another road favorite. And they're going to be asked to go into a divisional opponent, a team that knows them very well, with a brand new head coach who, again, yes, he's been on the staff forever, so there's a lot of continuity, but he is in his second stint, and the first one didn't go so well. We mentioned that in the preview. He's given a lot better chance to succeed here with just who he has around him. Winston is a big question mark, but we saw him look very good in what we got out of him early last year. He was a lot more efficient, effective, and taking care of the ball better. If that's what you get, and Thomas, who's playing, comes out and looks like 2019 Thomas, if Olave, just pops right into this offense, Kamara's fine and he doesn't have to go to jail at some point during the season, it's a scary offense because it has a good offensive line, and you have everybody essentially who put this offense together, except our guy Peyton, who's off of this secret family in Dallas, enjoying his year off right now. And you can talk about the defense too, but the defense is the mismatches are all over the field, and that's why you're looking at a team that's essentially a touchdown better because they are 5.5 point favorites on the road. Tough environment. It is another dome to dome team, but I don't know this. I don't have a strong look on this game outside of maybe some props, and I will be watching this one. This is one of those that we talk about in the previews where say, hey, what's the biggest question we have to answer about this team in Minnesota? Like, we have to see what Kevin O'Connell's play calling's like. It's massive. We have to see if this offensive line can hold up. We have to see if the defense is going to be effective at all. With the Saints, there's like 20 questions. There's a ton. They're all on the offensive side, and I don't know. It might be a spot where I'm starting to throw a little more money at them season long if I like what I'm seeing. Because I do kind of like what I'm hoping I'll see. I don't have any. I think this number's just about right, I guess.
I think it's a little bit too big. I think this is a Falcons or pass kind of a play.
It moved from like 4.5 to 5.5, which not the biggest move, but again, I'm not betting a Falcons team right here.
You did a very good job of sort of setting the table on this one, but I got to ask you, what's your read here? What's the deal with Michael Thomas? Why has it been 2 years since we've seen this guy, and they're just now like saying we'll see about week?
No, he's playing.
He's playing. What was Dennis Allen's comment today? We'll see.
I don't know. Everything pointed to he's just playing.
You think for sure he's playing? You think that was all weird misdirection or misinterpreted?
I guess. I mean, that's basically what we've been indicated. I'll have to double check into what Allen said, but I'm under the assumption he's playing. I'm under the assumption Drake London should play. I think he's trending the right way. So maybe this total's a little low. If you think Atlanta's live at all, if you think Atlanta is live at all, why aren't you just betting this over?
Over.
Do you think Atlanta gets to like 17 points?
Yeah, exactly.
How does this not go? 24-17, you're right there.
You're right there. You're knocking on the door. Yeah. I think this is going to be a pretty competitive game, as divisional games are wont to be. I think the fact that it's indoors is important. Two teams that have been, practicing in the heat all spring training, coming indoors, fast track. You got decent matchups for both offenses, I think. Kyle Pitts going up against an untested safety core. Not like super fired up about the transition from Marcus Williams to Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May out there, if Marcus May is even allowed to play. And I think that in general, the Marcus Mariota, we know he's a dual threat. The dual threat has a tendency to help you move chains. He is healthy now, which means that in general, the Atlanta offense, I think, is underrated, compared to a season-long expectation. And Jameis Winston, also squirrely out of the pocket, does not get credit for his kind of ability to upgrade his own conditioning and be a little bit more of a threat on the ground as well. Generated more EPA per play on the ground than I expected as I looked at last year's numbers. And so I think ultimately you're going to see a lot of drive success in this game. Whether or not this goes over or flies over the total, I think depends on red zone efficiency, which is a little bit of a question mark with the new offensive schemes being executed and, just in general turnover on the offenses. But because there is some uncertainty in terms of how these offenses will look, I do think the over is playable. 42 is a clean bet to the over, in my opinion. Atlanta at plus 5.5, one of the sides that I'm going to absolutely have in pocket and play in contests, and one of the only sides on the board that I think is value at the current price.
Atlanta obviously very bad in the red zone last year.
Yeah,
different look. It's a whole different look. And again, if you're going to have a bad offensive line, I guess let's at least have a quarterback who can move his feet a little. And no offense to Matt Ryan, we're going to say some nice things when we get to the Colts game, but he is not young and he's not fast. That scramble to the end zone / dive / give up / penalty, that was my favorite play of last year, I think. It wasn't quite Peyton Manning at the end of his career scrambling, but I think Mariota can do a little more than that.
Yeah. I think Saints offense is a little underrated. I think Atlanta offense is a little underrated. Saints defense is a little overrated. Atlanta defense is correctly rated, but it's the 32nd or 31st in the NFL. So they're going to concede points. Could be some garbage time points potentially in this one too, if it is gets out of hand and New Orleans is winning comfortably.
Mariota to some young receivers, tight ends, receivers in garbage time kind of makes me want to look at maybe some live overs in this.
Also,
game state.
As much as I love Kamara as a backfield threat, he's not a chain mover, eat the clock guy at the end of the game. So realistically, like Falcons not getting the ball back for those garbage time opportunities, I think is low. So between the two, slightly lean Falcons with the points, just because I think this is ultimately a field goal game. But over 42 is solid as well. What would that team total be for the Falcons?
I should have team totals just up.
They're not open yet, I don't think.
I know.
So we got to do the math on what they will be. Why? I mean, they've had so long here. It can be like 18.
But that's the thing. You can do the guess on the team total, and it's usually just like, if it's gonna be 18.5, a lot of times you'll just do 17.5 and juice it.
That's only 3 touchdowns for Kyle Pitts. That seems entirely reasable.
18.5 seems reasonable. So yeah. This game's a pass / live.
That only takes 3 touchdowns from Kyle Pitts, though. I feel like that's the first half. Yeah. No, in seriousness, those are the 2 looks I would advocate for that game. Let's keep moving. I'll set the table here. Niners Bears. We finally get to see Trey Lance take on a Bears squad that lacks talent at every positional group. This total has been bet down today, which I think was so. I'm not sure. We didn't talk about this. I'm not sure you
Kittle
saw it,
seems possible.
That was the Kittle.
Miss.
That was the Kittle news. The Kittle news that he injured his groin Monday and missed practice today. I think was preceded by a play to the under on this game, so it is now 40.5. Niners winning with defense, considering the weaknesses of the Bears O-line. Sure, why not? Niners in general being this injured already seems a little on the nose. Like, really? We're doing this again? Okay. Fire that training staff and get a new set of
do they got like is Dr. Chow moonlighting up there?
It does feel like that's kind of
no offense to him. He has some good opinions on Twitter.
No offense to Moons.
No offense to Moons, but there were some question marks about his ability to manage a team as far as health concerns go. And the Niners are either snake bit or they've got Dr. Nick up there. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Niners out to 7 is a big number. But what else are you gonna make it?
It's so hard to go say like, I'm gonna go lay a touchdown on the road on the long grass of Soldier Field with a quarterback that we saw almost none of last year. Mm-hmm. He got the preseason, he got camp, he was, the prep is way different this year. He's been around the block. I'm excited about him. I think he'll play well. But if you have a big weapon like George Kittle missing, and it's a season opener, like the nerves and all that. We talk about Joe Burrow. He played in some big games. He played in front of 1 million people. The FCS playoffs are big, but it's not the same. Lance, he played a spring game in front of like 30,000 people just to show off the arm a little that one season before he got drafted. It's a tough spot for the kid, and I'm not certainly looking at laying those points. While my numbers might say the Niners might be 8 or 9 points better on a neutral than the Bears.
Especially if you strip down home field advantage week 1.
You should take that maybe down to 8 points better, or if you want to go by the line plus the home field. I'm still not in a spot where I'm excited to bet this. This isn't a bad. You don't have to just stick to strict wongs. You don't have to put yourself in a box like that. If you want to tease the Niners, tease the Niners. If you want to use the Niners for Survivor, I think I like that a lot better.
It seems like it might close 7.5 too.
It seems like a move, and it feels like such a dumb thing to say. I'm waiting for the number to get worse to tease it. If you think it's going to go to 7.5, tease it now.
If you forced my hand, I'm predicting this closes 7.5. Also, not excited to lay this price, even though this is deja vu all over again, Andy. The Niners opened up on the road last year as 8.5 point favorites against the Lions, who are considered to be the worst team in the NFL. If memory serves, and they were covering that number easily. Lions backdoored it. So
the Lions backdoored it with like goddamn 28 points in the second half. Felt like they just kept scoring.
I think all in the fourth
Ramstein
quarter.
Just played Soldier Field, probably tore it to shit. Oh, you hate that. Do
us. It is generally true that in the early part of the season, teams that are speed teams suck at Soldier Field because they let the grass grow crazy long.
They haven't cut
that
the
is
grass
a known
since
angle.
June there.
That is a real thing. We saw with the Falcons when they had the fly high offense with Matt Ryan back in the day, go there and everybody was tripping on the grass. Like, it happens for sure. Not interested in laying these points, but go Trey Lance. I hope you have a tremendous debut, young man, on the way to a remarkable
nobody cares,
season.
but he's my fantasy quarterback in my big league. So I'm
Niners
cheering
closed.
for him to do well.
Niners got steamed out to 9 last year on the close, and they conceded 16 points in the fourth quarter, including 2 touchdowns under 2 minutes to play.
Dan Campbell
backdoored.
Can't stop, won't
They
stop.
backdoored. They backdoored. Yeah. Good shit. Pittsburgh, Cincy, you got a setup here?
Our other, this is the one where, like, hey, if you see a preview that doesn't mention the Super Bowl hangover, I guess they're not doing it right. So I'll mention the Super Bowl hangover. I hate it because it's a thing that's using a bunch of different teams in a bunch of different situations over a big period of time. So to get a big sample using teams that played before the 2-point conversion was brought back and before passing is what it is today. So hate it, but at the same time, the Bengals have been keyed in as a regression candidate. We pointed out that maybe they're regression proof because of the strengths and weaknesses. Their strengths are in the right spot. They have a guy at the most important spot on the field. They have a really good passing scheme with the 3 best, as far as 1, 2, 3 goes, receivers in the league. And a couple of spots, especially your RB1 is a big part of the passing offense. He can also run it a bit. The defense was bright in some spots, still problematic at some. And really the biggest glaring hole to this team is likely not a glaring hole anymore. They did some things to help this offensive line. And I get it. And again, we are facing this is finally a home favorite. Like this would be a spot where I'm thinking about it. And yes, they drafted a kicker and we panned them. Everyone panned them for it. And that's kind of a little bit of one of those dumb, intangible things, even though it's very tangible. He is a real person. You could touch him if you were near him. Don't do that. It's rude. But Evan McPherson is a very good kicker. And that's going to be a big part of this too. So I don't know. What do you think of this one? And then again, the Steelers, it depends how you feel. I think how you feel about the Steelers is how do you feel about Mitch Trubisky here?
Well, the Bengals had the Steelers number last year in 2 head-to-heads. They picked apart that defense with their trio of wide receivers. But really, I felt like those games were dictated more by the Bengals turned Ben Roethlisberger into a meme. You remember like the Ben Roethlisberger as a 20s, like,
oh God,
mistakes and shit?
They made it into like a talkie.
Yeah. A talkie. It was so priceless, and it was such a perfect encapsulation of what Roethlisberger did in those games. And really, I think that spoke to just what was the strength of the Bengals defense, which was giving limited quarterbacks a difficult time. And I would expect that to be sort of the name of the game here. Bengals offense, I would expect to look a little crusty, a little rusty, because we just didn't see a ton of Joe Burrow at practice in the preseason because of the appendix thing and whatever else was going on with him physically. So it may take them a little while to find sunglass. Oh, okay. May take them a little while to find some, find their groove, find some chemistry. So like a 24-13 kind of a game seems reasonable to me. I think ultimately by my power numbers, I would have made this a 6-point game and a 44-point total. So hair to the under and spot on Chris's side right now. So no bet for me. And I'm just going to watch to see any signs of, breakout for Cincinnati, because I have now a pretty strong position on them to do some awesome shit. So let's go Bengals.
Let us go Bengals. And yeah, I'm fine with these numbers, not betting the game. I'll look at again, again, so much of it depends on because the talent is there on the Steelers roster. They have talent in numerous positional groups, but this defense was a little overrated last year. And again, if you go back and look at some metrics overall for the season, this defense was getting a lot of love because it had a guy with 22 and a half sacks, and he was Defensive Player of the Year, and that's nice, but kind of a middle of the pack defense overall for a lot of the stats that I think that matter. So I think the Bengals put it up hard. If I had to bet anything here, it would be like Bengals team total over.
I love it.
What are we looking at there? Like a 25, 26? I'd take
24 and a half, right?
Sure. I'd make it a little higher.
It's going to be higher. It's going to be like 26.
So, and the thing is, like, the legal books have the freaking. I got to just pull up. Like,
they generally shade to the over on the team totals, too, if you didn't already know that. Okay.
And yes, credit where it's due, Trubisky does have an MVP award. Game he lost, I think. I don't think the Bears won that game.
They did
the
not.
Nickelodeon
They did not
viewers
cover.
that night voted him in.
I don't even think they covered. Let's keep
they're
moving.
pretty bad.
Philly Deet. Big mover.
Two favorite kids.
Big mover in the preseason run-up. And not to the side, but to the total. At one point, many millions of years ago, you could have bet this over at like 44, right? 46, I think you could have gotten at one point. It's up to 48 and a half. It's been pretty much one-way movement. There's been a teensy-weensy bit of buyback at 49, but this is one of the over darlings of some of the professional groups out there, apparently. Eagles at 4 has been sort of bouncing around in the dead zone there. I haven't seen a ton of people making a strong case that the Eagles, this is a good spot to lay the 4 with the Eagles, despite as strong as they have kind of been market wide. I don't know if you noticed this, Andy, but the Eagles used to be like 3-1 to win the NFC East, and they were going to go off as a faves in the plus 100 range. So that is some serious market coming to the table for this Eagles team. Yet this has come down from 5.5 back in June to 4. So not necessarily commensurate with the market overall sentiment that this team is for real, which tells you that there's a little bit of a Detroit tax in this game, in my opinion. I think there's been a lot of people who have kind of really made strong cases that Detroit is being overlooked as a dark horse in the NFC, which I am on board with. But I'm not getting involved with this game from a betting standpoint. I am very, very excited to see what happens, though, because this will set up something awesome in week 2, one way or the other.
This is why I'm going to Vegas. They have more TVs than me.
Well,
I need to get set up.
So here's the $1 million question. You ready for this? Are you more inclined to sell high on whichever team wins, or buy low on whichever team loses in week 2?
It's a really tough question to answer without watching the game. Like if Goff is just dreadful for no reason, not like, oh, he had pressure in his face all day and maybe the offensive line isn't as good as we thought. There's a lot of, it's very, very hard to answer that without watching. But if both teams battle it out and there isn't some clear, like, oh, this is a lot worse than I thought it was going to be from this team, they just play well. And, one team will have to lose unless it ties, which would be even funnier. I think, I think I'm fine buying low on a team that loses a competitive game and doesn't piss their pants to lose it. They are just beaten. They don't lose the game. They're beaten by the other team, especially if it is the Lions, maybe in a few different ways to look at that. So the offensive line for the Lions is probably question mark number 1. I want to see what they do with the passing game because of the switch at coordinator and what they're deciding to do with the play calling duties this year. That's question number 2 I want to see. And then just if the defense gives us anything, especially in the secondary, that's big. The Eagles, everything is Hurts and AJ. Like if that connection clicks right away, I guess watch out NFC East.
I'm hopeful. And again, I'm more inclined to sell high on whatever team covers convincingly in this game if somebody does. Um,
And that's the thing. Like, if the Lions piss their pants and the Eagles win, but they didn't look that good, maybe there's a spot to be looking at some Cowboys futures or.
I was thinking more
Lord knows what
specifically
else.
week 2. Monday Night Football is Vikings right now plus 2.5 in Philly. A nice setup for a spot where if the Vikings can't get it done against the Pack and the Eagles thunderfuck the Lions, you get a little 3.5 maybe goes across 3. Any chance?
Yeah, that's a look. That's a look.
It's a chance. Okay.
So.
That would be nice. Alternatively, I would love for the Lions to win, and then we can, I can recoup some of the lost opportunity. I can boom value, right?
Boom value.
I can boom value some Eagles if they lose outright. An Eagles win by 3 would make me very frustrated because that means we'd get nothing. Nothing happens. So with that, let's continue to move on to New England at Miami. Dan jumped ahead 1.
I'm fine talking about New England, Miami.
You want to go Baltimore Jets or New England, Miami?
No, I don't even care if it's on the screen. Rotation order means something where I grew up.
Okay.
And
New
it's
England.
fine. We'll get there.
At Miami.
New England, the biggest news out of this game was that New England went down there ripe and early. They went down plenty early to get ready, to get acclimated to the heat, the humidity, the people who are determined to take bath salts and commit crazy crimes and get in the paper. So the prep makes sense. I'm still just so out on what this team is deciding to do in Mac Jones' sophomore year. And I likely won't bet this game, just looking at the question marks surrounding this, that, the other thing. And I don't know if Stinky Tua is ever going to fix what he's doing. Like, I want to get involved in this game, but the question marks are big and they're nasty, and they're both around the most important position on the field. And I'm fine. I'm fine not betting this and just watching this, really paying attention to some of the form stuff you're seeing from Tua. And I don't understand the move unless it's just a straight up Patriots fade. I don't think there's people with big money that came in hard and said, like, we believe in Tua now, finally, and push this number to where it is right now. I don't disagree with the move. Maybe they're the home team and they have the better ceiling with their quarterback. They have the much better offensive weapons. They absolutely went in on this offseason. And if Tua isn't stinky, this team is good, but I can't tell you that for sure. So I think the Dolphins win. I think the Dolphins likely cover, but I don't want to be sitting there at halftime as a multiple year member of the Stinky Tua Club and saying, I just bet on Stinky Tua with money, like real money. And I'm mad about it here because the Patriots, if nothing else, still have a good defensive scheme they can put in place. Matthew Judon's great. This defense maybe doesn't take till the middle of the year to get right. This defense is maybe pretty decent right off the bat. So I don't know, your thoughts?
We've seen the betting market go through 3 in for 2 Florida teams. One of them is supporting the Jaguars. The other is fading Bill Belichick. So my only logical conclusion is that there is a wicked strain of meth ripping up and down the state of Florida right now. That's the only conclusion I can come to. I'm being facetious. The fact that there was enough support to get this to 3 from 2.5 was interesting to me. Like, it caught my attention, obviously. Right, the fact that it's now 3.5, almost flat, is not something I ever would have predicted. As the preseason has gone on, I'm stocked down on New England, but I'm stocked down on Miami. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. The move to the over, I do agree with. I think there are a lot of tangible angles that point to this being a higher scoring game than the opener. I played 43.5 back in the beginning of August here, and saying that used to be the total, but it was. I promise I'm not lying. It is now 46.5. I think this hit 47, bounced its head off 47 as somebody, decided that was the inflection point in the market. And so 46.5 seems to be likely where we close. My fair in this one is 47.5. So I think there's still some small value to the over, but I'm not advocating running out and backing that. My over case is pretty straightforward here. I think New England's secondary is a huge problem. And I think that New England's offense is being treated like an afterthought when in reality there's at least competency at the quarterback position there, right? So it's not.
Yeah, there was never a game where Mac Jones is just pooping his pants and giving this game away.
No,
there were games where hey, they aren't asking him to do shit.
You can argue till you're blue in the face that his ceiling is not as high as the other guys that he was taken with, but you can't argue that he has some sort of trap door is going to open. He's going to fall through the floor, and this is going to be
if you hung a chandelier on that ceiling, it's sitting on the floor.
Yes, we know
he is. I think we know what we have, and maybe
narrow distribution there.
I think if we're wrong about either the floor or the ceiling, it's more likely the ceiling.
For sure.
And maybe he makes one of these jumps. There's quarterback coaches and personal trainers out there. I don't know, but
I mean, the offensive coordinator situation is obviously a red flag. It's odd. It's weird.
It's like that red flag tweet people were making, the meme.
Yeah, there's
when he's a 10 out of 10 Hall of Fame coach, but he doesn't understand how to hire an offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Yeah, that's more of a season long, what happens. The idea that they're not going to have a plan for how to attack a Miami defense, that Miami's defense is going to take a step backwards this season. Don't make any mistake there. The Brian Flores was specifically a brilliant matchup for his counterpart in Josh McDaniels over the last couple of seasons, and got great performances out of that Miami defense, specifically against this Patriots team. I think that's going to take a big step backwards in his absence. And I think Miami's defense in general is probably bottom half of the NFL now. I think the up and downs of the Byron Joneses and the Xavier Howards you've seen over the years is real. I think they do have solid safety who's up and coming in Javon Holland, but there are still huge questions about the pass rush on this team, huge questions for me about the linebacking core on this team. And I think the Patriots are going to be able to, sustain drives and score points. This to me seems more like a game where we're going to see both teams exceed their potential. And that is because Miami's passing offense is going to be able to pick on a lousy secondary for New England. And because New England, not only, and actually this hasn't been talked about a ton, but what they're trying to do from an offensive scheme standpoint that's different than last year is a lot more. You're going to see more plays, faster pace, and more throwing the ball. All of that leads to more stoppages, even if they're incomplete, more points, and kind of a shoot 'em out type of contests, more so than
even anything. Three and outs with 3 incomplete passes. Those are good for points too, because the time taken off is just minimal there.
That's right. It might be an ugly.
I do think
ultimately be an ugly game, but 27-20 gets it there. 24-23 gets it there.
The scenario I see, and I agree with you on the Miami step back. I don't think it's instant though on defense, and I think this pass rush still will be okay against this offensive line, which I don't have ranked terribly high. If they're able to pressure Mac, we might see the Patriots struggle to get to what they need to score to get to this total. But I agree, Miami's going to get there somehow. So I do lean Miami in this one.
I forgot Byron Jones is on the pup, by the way. Byron Jones on the pup, Xavier Howard, good, but inconsistent. And what I think Brian Flores brought to the table more than anything as a coach wasn't even scheme. He was a very, very good developer of the young players they drafted. And now that he was not there for this offseason to continue those guys' growth, I think is a red flag. Without looking,
but they have no incentive to lose this game now that the coach ain't getting paid to lose them.
That's a fair point. They
That
did
is fair,
retain
sure.
their defensive coordinator Josh Boyer, but I will always think of him as the North South Dakota School of Mines guy. In my mind, that's him, and that's my expectation there. Let's move on to Baltimore Jets.
Again, Baltimore does not have a wide receiver, and that's an interesting strategy to go into the season with. And now we have the drama surrounding the contract, and they are still 7-point road favorites because they're playing one of the bad rosters in the league, one of the worst teams. And I talked to somebody about this yesterday, and I said, man, if I'm betting the Ravens, taking the Ravens in Survivor, teasing them, just a fan of the Ravens, I'd rather see Zach Wilson. Like Joe Flacco at this point in his career for a game or two can give you middle of the pack quarterback play. And I would have much rather seen Zach Wilson here. I don't know what to make of what the Jets are going to do with this, and the fact that it might be up to 4 weeks at this point. But I do think the weird part about Baltimore is like the games they win, they might have to just run for 250 yards as a team. This might be a spot where they can do it. So this could be a really, really horrible game to watch. And I don't know if this total's low enough. Because, we went over the Baltimore defense and what they bring, and but it's still the Jets. It's still the Jets. And then, man, do we get the Flacco 80-yard pass interference play?
We do not.
That's
that's
a thing that happens.
You
so
asked.
I'd love to know what the game plan going to be with. Hey, we have to put Joe Flacco out there. Like, he's been around, he gets it. I don't think they're gonna have to simplify or anything, but yeah. I don't know what my game plan would be, putting the players they have out there, putting that roster out there against a decent team. I'm not sure what you see from this Jets offense or what the game plan is. It might be one of those where they just, hey, we have the rookie running back who's actually second on the depth chart. We have two what we feel are okay running backs. Do we try to shorten this game, keep it close, keep their offense off the field? Like, because we're starting a backup quarterback and we're in the spot where might be where I go with this. And again, to me, between that and Baltimore going to be the opposite of Miami, where the clock will always be running after a play because it was a short pass over the middle, or it was a run up the gut, or a quarterback keeper. Like, it's not college. Clock don't stop on a first down, guys. So I do think maybe this total could be a little lower.
Andy, it could be a lot lower.
Yes.
This is one that I
should be 41.
It should be 41. Thank you. I'm glad we agree on this because we haven't talked about it. What is going on here? Why is this
one a bit today?
Okay. Let's just agree that you made the case, so I don't need to go above and beyond. This is an underspot. This has 23-7 written all over it. Or 23-3. I mean, the Jets team total under is probably a decent look for secret pod play. We'll revisit this at the end. It's going to be like 18-ish. How are the Jets getting 20 against that defense at full strength? How's this happening? You're exactly right. Also, that the offense may shorten the just in general try to shorten the game. This may be the first one that's done on Sunday, right? Like, this is probably the first game that's in the books, I would guess. 2 questions for you. You made the point about Joe Flacco being confirmed in over Zach Wilson. That was not a sure thing. Trust me. Everyone, we know a lot of Jets leak like a.
There were people that saying Wilson's good to go.
The Jets leak like a sieve, and there was no word that this was going to be 4 weeks until today. Yet, okay. Do you see the market reacted? 1 cent. There was a 1 cent move when the news hit the wire. And then it actually went 2 cents the other direction. So we are now currently, you can now bet the Jets 1 cent better than you could before it was confirmed that Flacco was going to be, Flacco was going to be the starting quarterback here, which is just hysterical. So basically, Flacco is 1 cent better than Wilson, apparently, or Flacco is 1 cent better than 50-50. Either way, that's unbelievable that we are here. I think this was an underlook with Wilson. I think it's even more of an underlook with Flacco. Flacco did not look good to me at all.
All right, fuck it.
In the
It's a bet.
preseason.
Putting it in.
So here's
4.5 still widely available.
We're there. We're there. I'm in there with you. I got to ask you about the pass interference comment you made. Broadly, there's been over bets over, in week 1 compared to the openers. I think you would say that that could just be people are enthusiastic about offenses because of the way that teams are rostered and all the young, good offensive players and how good a bunch of rookies, wide receivers looked in preseason. Who knows? But it could also be that in general that there's a macro mispricing of totals because of the defensive penalty change in emphasis. What is your understanding of that change, and do you think there is a macro angles to the overs broadly that we should at least keep in mind before firing unders?
I never know how to feel about these rule changes. I do know that sometimes it sticks and they are consistent, sometimes it doesn't, but in both of those cases it is emphasized in week 1 at least. So I think you should heed it in the short term and see where it goes.
Okay. What is the rule change itself?
Because I
exactly?
think they see like if there's enough overreaction from the fans, the media, if it's when they make a rule change and it's instantly bashed for how it's been employed on like not just people bitching on Twitter, but on like a mainstream halftime or post game sports center.
Mainstream halftime handicapping podcast.
Yeah, like I say, Tony Dungy's mad about it. This is this is a spot where they might send the refs another letter, but like, hey, dial that back about 50%, guys.
What do you know what problem they were trying to solve?
Never do. They're all solving a problem that doesn't exist. They're like my wife.
I guess because I could see it cutting both ways, which is why I haven't done anything macro with this. It could extend drives because they're calling a bunch of shorter penalties, but it could absolutely turn down how many big over the top DPIs you see, right?
Yeah, and it's funny that I like that you brought up with Flacco because I think you're right on that. So, which I want to see that. I don't like that play. It's one of those where you're happy if it happens to you, but overall it's not great for viewing.
No, so that's not why you tune in. You don't tune in to watch the Zebras.
All right, a little under for me in the Ravens Jets.
You probably shouldn't tune in to watch the Jets either.
I'm gonna watch a little of this. I want to see see the Ravens offense.
Okay.
Jacksonville, Washington. You are asked to lay points with a bad quarterback who struggled against this team twice last year when he was with the Colts, with a better coaching staff, better offensive line, playing indoors. And that Jacksonville team was led by an absolute goofball. Now the Jags are probably a little more ship-shape. This is like the end of Stripes where Bill Murray gets them all into shape and they do that awesome marching around, razzle-dazzle. Like I expect the Jaguars maybe the Jaguars doesn't translate on the win-loss record. I expect them to be a little more disciplined and play a lot better this year. This is a game that, again, you don't want to watch this from a standpoint of getting excited to watch this football game, but there's a good many questions we need answered about the Jaguars and probably a little bit for the Commanders too, because we saw this last year with Wentz where they managed a game around him, said, let's build this game plan out where he can't screw it up for us, use our other strengths, use our all-world running back. And don't get me wrong, Washington has some good running backs. One of them's injured. But it's not Jonathan Taylor. It's certainly not Naeem Hines. It's certainly not this offensive line. So I'm very cold on the Commanders' offense. And they're another one of those with, hey, there's some really good flash pieces on this D, and it can play well, but the defense being middle of the pack is well within the realm of possibilities. I'm cold on the Commanders. I'm tentatively warm on the Jags, and I don't know. You want to tease a Jaguars team on the road here? Maybe. I'm not super excited here.
No. If you have any kind of bullish feelings about the Jaguars, you've already bet them, right?
I mean, everybody. The Super Bowl.
I think.
You made me.
Well, it was bad. It was a terrible price. You probably have cash out equity right now before they've even played a game that you should think about if you play.
It's like my Gonzaga ticket. They want to buy that.
Only
back.
one. Only one.
I know. I should take it too.
So in general, the bet was Jaguars 3.5 or money line at the earlier price. I would still look for money line here. I think this is a 50-50 game. Plus money on the money line is bettable. I think the Jaguars are a volatile or variance team in terms of what you're going to get out of them early in the season because of the youth of Lawrence, because of the uncertainty around what that offensive system is going to look like, because it may take a little while for guys to find their roles and responsibilities in the receiving room. But if they do it out of the gate, they're going to be great in this game and they're going to win going away. I don't think it makes any sense at all to take Jaguars plus the points in this one at 2.5. Not enough to get involved.
Yeah, if you miss the 4, you miss the 3, you miss the 3.5. Take the money line. There's plenty of maybe it needs updating, but I read a pretty good article that I trusted the numbers in, and it was basically if your team is +2, 2.5, 1, 1.5, it almost in the long term it does make more sense to just play that money line. Those numbers land so infrequently. The push probabilities are not enough to make up for laying the juice rather than getting as much as +125, +130 on the money line.
Andy, you know what?
And the total's low.
You know what? And there's one other key reason that you put that conclusion on steroids for this game. There is a huge amount of uncertainty early in the season with who these teams are.
Mm-hmm.
Priors are weak or soft, at least.
Yeah, these numbers, these lines are probably weak compared to what we'll see in 10 weeks.
If this was Jaguars at Commanders 2.5 in week 15, and we had 14 weeks, 13 games of Trevor Lawrence under our belts, and we knew exactly how he was functioning in the Detroit, in the Peterson system, then maybe we'd feel like 2.5 is probably a good line as opposed to money line. Like these teams could turn into teams that you feel like you have a dead read on, in which point, if you think it should be 3 and it's 2.5, you lay the 2.5, or you think it should be 1.5 and it's 2.5, you take the 2.5. That could ultimately be where you end up with certain teams as we get deeper into the season, with the lower total and with the with the softer priors, particularly considering these two teams with new quarterbacks. I think this is money line. Great look still, and I would stop playing it if it gets out of plus money range.
Agreed. Lean Jags, especially straight up. If you really like it, I bet you could go find a Jags -3, 200 or plus 200. Something.
That's embracing variance. That is what we're talking about.
That's how you want to do. Sell some points. Sell. It's all got to go.
Yeah. Never tease across 0. Probably can please across 0 though. Although this pleases
you can absolutely pleases
you over 3.
I would encourage it.
I don't know if I'm pleasing over 3.
Panthers,
What's the best number to please on? Plus 3.5.
I think we
determined to -2.5.
I think we determined it was 3 and 3.5.
3 and 3.5 takes you right to the field goal on the other side.
Yeah, gets you from the field goal to the field goal.
Because guess what? The two most likely outcomes in that game are the Jags win by 3 and the Commanders win by 3. So
you're covering like a fifth of all outcomes with that. So
yep.
Dan's being dirty. Cleveland at Carolina, not the quarterback matchup we would have thought as little as 12 months ago, but here we are. I guess we would have said Baker Mayfield's involved in this game, and he is on the other sideline. Jacoby Brissett will start, obviously, for 12-ish weeks with the bye in there, 11 games, as that was our suspension for the, I don't know if we're going to, do we have a name for it? Ejaculate Gate, Creep Gate. I don't know. Just all those stories are so grody. Just a grody deal. Well, hopefully we're just done talking about that for a while. And Panthers are bet out to 2.5 here. The total is 42. This is one I did bet yesterday too. I don't know if you want to kind of talk in this game. Maybe you can guess.
Yeah.
But just quick, Darnold is injured for a while, so he doesn't have that. I knew in my heart of hearts he was going to be named the starter. You don't give that up and not, and then do a quarterback competition. We didn't like him, I guess. But I was a little worried about him having to look over his shoulder a little after he just went through. You might not like Baker Mayfield, but he got the shaft there. Like, he was still on the roster and they traded for a much better quarterback. That's what the team thinks of you. Like, that can't feel good. So, I mean, that has to be fucking with his psyche a little. And we brought this up in the previews as well. Jacoby Brissett, not a horrible quarterback, and he's about to step into the best offense. You don't know if you got a good race car driver until you put him in a real fast car. So, Jacoby Brissett, I don't have high hopes for, but I have high hopes for him to manage what's around him and play okay in the games that they can win, because they have a doozy of a schedule across the first 10 games with some really absolutely almost unwinnable games with a backup. It feels like you got to get these ones that you can if you want to hand the keys over to Deshaun later in the year and have any chance at the playoffs. Your thoughts on this one, Drew?
I'm annoyed by the market. I'm holding a garbage ticket on Brown's money line at a terrible price. The market.
Ooh, quick timeout on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I bet this game.
Yeah.
Screwed it all up. Did not bet it. I bet their whatever week preseason game that won.
Oh, you did?
And then I'm like, because it cashed. I'm like, why did I have this in my winners? I'm like, I bet the wrong game. And then by that time, I'm like, man, do I even want to bet that game? Because the market was kind of moving that way anyway. I'm like, should I just wait? And then now at this point, I've just washed my hands of it.
Oh, okay. I bet this game when word came out that Watson was going to appeal the suspension. I was like, oh, he might get a stay of execution here and actually be the starter week 1, in which case the Browns are going to be like 5-point favorites. So I'm just going to go bet whatever I can on the money line right now. That was stupid in hindsight. I regret that. I could have made a better bet this moment at plus money on the money line. I wouldn't, but I could. And I think, I guess my general read here is there are people that are going to talk about this game and make this about Baker Mayfield revenge against the Browns for some reason. Like, he has some sort of a revenge angle on the Browns, even though, like, I think every team in their right mind would have evaluated his performance last season and moved on. And again, I think the Browns were a team built to win last year, not win the title, but at least compete, at least get the playoffs, at least get to week 2 of the playoffs again.
High up on the disappointment rankings last year.
Right. And so they
were like the last season of Game of Thrones.
There may be one man in Carolina blue with an axe to grind in this game, but there are 52 that are wearing Cleveland Browns uniforms that have an axe to grind in this game, because Mayfield legitimately kept them from their potential, from reaching their potential. And I don't think he was well liked in that locker room. And I think in general, the Browns would love to send a message to him and the Panthers in general. And the Panthers are a market up team broadly. Like, people have somehow evaluated how their offseason and preseason went and said that this is a team that's on the come up. Not even just, I want to fade the Bucs and I'm not sure how else to do it. I guess I'll back the Panthers, but literally, like, somebody out there likes what they see out of Matt Rule and company. I will remind all of those people that Ben McAdoo is the offensive coordinator and that Baker Mayfield is the quarterback. And that there are still very sincere questions about some of the players on this offensive side of the football here, particularly the offensive line. So if the Browns are generating pressure and if the Browns can do a decent job in the secondary covering Mayfield's first read, then I think the Browns can hold the Panthers to a very low score here, at which case you literally are asking Jacoby Brissett to be efficient enough to get you a couple field goals and a touchdown in this game, and you're trying to win like 13-10. What's your read?
I disagree with all of that. I played the over.
Oh, you like the over? Oh, interesting. You don't think this is the Browns defense getting revenge?
No, and the Browns defense are another one too, where you think of a defense and you think of some big names, but susceptible, especially in some spots. And I was a little sketched out by Baker not having a ton of time to prep with this, but I like this offense. Like, I like this Carolina offense. I think this is going to be a fun offense that we don't get to see in the playoffs because the defense probably just isn't quite there. And this is a really, really good receivers room. And if they can get anything out of that, I mean, they really, really, really probably screwed up when they went with Sam Darnold. Like, that was a just complete lost year. Obviously, Baker wasn't available last year, but they probably should have gone a different direction there. And I really like this offense right now because it's healthy. You have the best offensive player in the league in your backfield for now. Again, he's not guaranteed, nor do I think he'll finish the season. You have 3 good receivers. You have a the offensive line. I should look where I have them ranked now. I was going to say we're getting there. That was one of the worst for 3-4 years. I think, look at that. I have them 22nd right now, 22nd, 23rd. They're on the come up, just like Francis TFO. And I think this offense will click. And the same thing with the Browns. I really think that both offenses have the advantage. I'm not a really big Amari Cooper guy, but again, this is the fastest car Jacoby Brissett's ever driven. They have 2 running backs that are not just grind it out, hammer it up the middle guys. You have some finesse there. You have multiple people who can catch the pass out of the backfield on both sides. I think there's just so many options for this offense. And it was 41.5 yesterday. It's ticked up a little at Bookmaker. I'm not saying I'm crushing it on the CLV, but it is up to 42 flat now.
If you're going to play an over, this has got to be your market you're shopping in my opinion, week 1. So
yeah. So I hope it's not an ugly. I'm not saying I can't see that, but boy, just the way these offenses are rostered, they're rostered to score against teams that maybe aren't going to be able to cover the middle of the field as well. Teams that don't have just a plethora in the defensive secondary. I think these teams are going to score. I think this is a low-key, sneaky, fun game.
Okay.
And I have no idea who wins.
Okay. So, fun fact for you. Ben McAdoo, born in Homer City. So he's a Homer City guy. His ascension to head coach of the Giants was via offensive coordinator role under Tom Coughlin, and he just got elevated within. His firing by the Giants, which came after 2 years, and really kind of horrible. At the time was that was like a disruption, right? The Giants are like, no, we don't fire guys after 2. Okay, fine, we'll do it. Now it's the norm in New York, but it is what it is. That ultimately was because the team quit on him because they didn't like him, I think. I mean, they weren't especially stinking under him. And so maybe there's something there in terms of his scheme could still apply in the current NFL's, he had Eli Manning, the riding corpse.
I'm not going to go out and plant my flag in McAdoo's hair, but he is one that felt like he is just a really shitty leader. Like, this guy could probably coordinate as much as we ripped on him when he was a head coach. So I have a hat. I just didn't wear it because my hair was looking nice today. This is for Mexico. These are the hats they wore in the World Baseball Classic.
Oh, wow.
It's not true. I didn't know it. I didn't know what this brand was. I don't golf that much, and now I can't go and not buy a golf hat. But
Well,
all right, yeah, I'm on the over.
McAdoo's stops after he got fired. He took a 3-year sabbatical and then came back as the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterbacks coach for 1 year until they changed regimes. And then last year he was a consultant for the Dallas Cowboys. So we still don't really know what he has in store.
I love the 3-year sabbatical. It's the what does it mean? Went to all Kerouac on everyone's ass for a while. I don't know. Joe Judge. Yeah, they've had a bunch of bad coaches there, but yeah. Regardless, I played this over. Hopefully, it keeps picking up.
All right, I'll cheer for you in spirit, but I'm not getting involved there.
Yeah, I can't get involved on the side. All right, Colts Texans. Texans took a big swat of money 2 days ago. Pushed this down quite a bit. So I don't know your thoughts on the move first off the bat.
It was the right directional move because I think this was Texans or pass, but Godspeed to whoever did that. I mean, you're gonna have yourself a hell of a Sunday when you realize who you bet on. I've caught whiffs in the media landscape of people being like, maybe the Texans aren't as bad as we think. And I keep coming back to this roster and being like, which part isn't as bad as we think? I think Davis Mills has been broadly overrated because people want to say something nice about the Texans, and all they can point to was he wasn't a disaster last year. But I don't see much there. If they ultimately get a good year out of him, then so be it. But this is a Lovie Smith experience, apparently, that we're going with this year in Houston, and sign me out on that. I think that the high spots for the Texans is probably your wide receiver room with Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins. Brandon Cooks presumably gets wiped off the face of the earth by Stephon Gilmore in this game. So this is probably a good Nico Collins type of a game if you're into the if you only like playing overs in fantasy or props or whatever. So I think in general, Davis Mills to Collins in comeback mode is probably what you're looking at for a lot of this game. As much as I have huge questions surrounding some of the aspects of the Colts, none of it is going to be tested by this defensive unit here. Derek Stingley Jr. and Jalen Petrie may ultimately be very solid contributors. That's what you're hoping to get long-term out of this roster. But if they ultimately come in on week 1 of their first years and give you something amazing against Michael Pittman Jr., then God bless. Like, that seems like a very tough ask on top of the fact that this run defense had huge questions, and they get to go against Jonathan Taylor, who's in year 3 and is on the ascension. So not understanding really what the case is for taking the points with Houston, other than they are a home dog in division. Then that's a weak case.
That's it. Like,
it's
a home dog in division early in the year. A lot of uncertainty. New quarterback at the other coach. They lost the coordinator, and the number was too big. Like, I think it was just a number grab, and fine.
Fine. Total, I thought originally was too low. I thought this was going to be a great sneaky overlook. Got blasted from 44 to 46.5. Oh, excuse me, 40 hit this one also hit its head on 47, and that was the buy. That was the inflection point. I'm going to use inflection point a lot this year.
I think
talking about the market. The inflection point was 47. I don't think that gets back to 47. I think this is going to stay right where it is at 45.5, 46 until we kick off. And in general, I don't love Gus Bradley and the defense for the Colts long-term this season, but if you're telling me that they can hold a 21-point first half lead and keep this into the 27-10 type of final score, won't be surprised. So easy one to pass. And also, it's a better teaser leg now than it was, but for some reason, people aren't interested in teasing the Colts here. How about you, Andy?
I don't hate it. Again, of the 4 ways the Wong works. You have the home dog, the home favorite, the away dog, away favorite. The worst of the 4 is the road favorite. And there's something we said. It's not like it's orders of magnitude worse, but it is the worst. It's the toughest. last point on this before we move on, because
Yeah.
I don't really have an opinion. The Colts have lost 8 straight week ones. They've lost like 11 out of 12. Frank Reich has never won a week one as a head coach. And all of them but one he was favored in of the last 4. And the other one was like basically a pick 'em where they were maybe a 1-point dog. I just can't get started. Is there any signal to that eventually?
Signal.
I think that's
they
something.
Lose outright.
But I think he knows. I think he has to know it.
I'm being. Point. If you couldn't tell, I'm being facetious.
I think there's a scope.
They have mentioned it. They've mentioned it all camp though. Like internally, they are like.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's enough signal where it works in reverse. Where he's like, all right, we have to fucking figure this out. We can't start in a hole again.
No, the idea that they come out overlooking their opponent again, I find tough to buy. Which brings us to the key question about this game. Are the Colts the correct pick for Survivor?
It sucks. It's a couple of road teams we're looking at, but Colts and Niners are up there, and I'm leaning Niners just because of how bereft of talent the Bears are and how much I like.
Niners get Seattle. Niners get Seattle at home next week as 8.5-point favorites potentially. Niners also get Atlanta in week 6. Niners have some decent future value. Colts don't have much future value until week 18 when they play the Houston Texans again, if you're keeping track at home.
Yeah, for some reason I didn't want to use the Niners next week. I think next week I was looking at my one Denver spot.
Denver.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty high on Denver next week. Home, a really shitty team having to go
that's a
up.
good spot.
It's Texans going up to Denver next week was my Survivor. So I don't know. I think there is enough signal where it's not predictive, but it's maybe indicative of their prep heading into week 1, and they know about it. So nice bounce spot for them here. Go Colts.
Dude, week 3 already looks like hell in Survivor.
I know.
You're gonna have to play. You gotta
Jet
save.
Blue Amigo here
save,
says number one rule not to pick a road team in Survivor in week 1. But man, find a home favorite you like.
You can't take Cincy, so you need to save Cincy for week 3. Week 3 is nasty. Week 3, your only decent favorites in week 3 are Chargers hosting Jacksonville, and that feels like it doesn't feel like a great look, especially
your
after coming off
biggest favorites at home are the Chargers or Miami, so you essentially have to take a road favorite in week 1.
Tennessee.
This is tough.
You could
Tennessee's 5.5.
You could bet against. You could bet against the Giants if you want. That's not crazy.
Horrible. So
I think you have to save Cincinnati for week 3. I think you go. You have to save Cincinnati for week 3 because you have to save the Chargers for week 4. Dude, Survivor's going to be tough as shit this year. This is going to be hard. This is going to be hard as hell.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of the 5.5 point,
Baltimore's
not
bad this week, even though they're a road team. But Baltimore's getting a ton of the. Baltimore is the leading pick right now. In terms
That's what
of
I'm saying.
percentage.
You have to pick a road favorite.
I think,
unless you got sneaky and use the Titans in one of these. The Titans are.
Yeah. Fuck. This is tough.
We're moving on.
Okay. Sorry.
You're 6 weeks deep in Survivor, and we have a chart up on the screen. Tennessee Titans are a 5-point favorite. Saints, not a bad look. Giants. The Giants. I was hopeful for this rebuild, and I'm not hopeful.
Maybe next year.
But the Titans are also a team who's decided that they would like to ambush, sabotage their quarterback. Don't like this game at all. Don't want to bet this. Don't want to watch this. Don't even want to talk about this. I don't know what your biggest thoughts are here, but there was a little bit of a move up out to 6.5. It got bet back. The total hasn't probably caught any money, it seems like, or just sitting. And is it obvious why this is a late game? Yeah, this is an ugly one. Daniel Jones option wasn't picked up for a reason. There's a bunch of young receivers there that I would love to see with a competent quarterback, I guess. You have a bad starter, a dinged up backup. I just don't think we're going to see it for this year. I'd like to know what we have in Wandale and Tony and everything. And you have a really high-end running back, and I don't know what we're going to see from this offense. So a lot of question marks with the Giants. You bring in a new head coach going up against a Titans team that is right up there with the Baltimore Ravens as far as receiving cores. And then I think Tannehill's kind of on the out. So ugly game. I lean under here. I lean a little bit towards maybe even the dog, but I can't pull the trigger on either of those. Way too high levels of uncertainty, and I don't have the answers to any of the questions to bet this.
Yeah, you try to talk yourself into any unit in this game, and you talk yourself right out of it.
Saquon. Welcome.
I played the Giants at 6.5, and I regret it. I will probably buy out and shoot for a middle on 6. I need the right price for 6, but that's probably what I'm end up doing. This feels like a
what are limits on the alt lines at Circa, or excuse me, Bookmaker? So you got 6.5.
They'll take 2K on alts, or they were at the time I was betting, but
they'll take 25,000 on alts, so you can buy out.
The the Bookmaker doesn't really have limits. Like they'll take multi-click anything if
That's
they're not, and they're not always.
Well, that's the thing. You can bet an awful lot on NFL and not watch it move a thing. Whereas I put $200 on doubles match at the U.S. Open, and it moves 3 cents.
Which one did you put? Which one did you bet?
The other day, it was just laughing.
Okay. Like I bet a doubles match for tomorrow. I was curious if it was the same
you see, it'll always flash when you bet those.
Yeah. Depending on which market, sometimes they move, sometimes they don't. But for the most part, NFL sides, you can set your price, which is why they're marked. I respect their numbers the most, frankly. I don't love this spot anymore. I think this is Giants or pass. I think it's under or pass. But total seems to be settled in a fair place. Side seems settled in a fair place. So we will see what we have with these two teams, and I will be uneasy and assume I will lose my Giants price, but we'll see. Let's move on to a game I'm very curious your thoughts on. Green Bay at Minnesota. Packers.
These are leg of the century.
We are 2 years removed from the Packers going into Minnesota with a high-flying passing offense week 1 and just being unstoppable. And then we are 1 year removed from Aaron Rodgers quitting on his team in the offseason, coming back and getting his clock cleaned week 1 against the Saints. So weird stuff happens in week 1. But this, if I had to handicap this game, I see a Packers team that's going to be very strong in the run, very weak in the pass. I see a Vikings team that defense, their weakness is going to be the run defense. They're going to be decent in the pass defense. And so it's kind of square peg, square hole for the Packers to play ball control if they can generate a lead. On the flip side, Minnesota's offense looks like over the balance of the season, they are going to be a huge step forward, maybe a leap forward from what we've seen in years past. But against the Green Bay defense, this is a really, really tough test. Green Bay is going to have light personnel out there, which matches up well with what Kevin O'Connell wants to do. Green Bay's defense in general has feasted on the Rams' type of scheme in years past. And so all told, this looks like an underplay. And as I look at what the market momentum has said, this has been somewhat of a strong move to the under. I don't think it breaks up 30 through 47. But not that long ago, this was 48.5, 49. And now it is a true 47, actually shaded 47 to the under. So this to me looks like one of the more professional and sharp moves of any of the total moves. And I think this is probably an under game based on matchup. What is your read?
Yeah, I agree with the move. I'm pissed I missed out at 49, 48, 47, probably still bettable. If it does come to fruition, the game states you're describing, it is a snoozer. The only thing I worry about is there is a tail case that this Minnesota offense is just unlocked. Like, like you finally, find that one girl she's a little crazy. She, she gets you in trouble at parties, but boy, she just unlocks things for you. I'm talking sexually. That's what I'm thinking. I think Kevin O'Connell might, again, huge question mark. Didn't call plays. Don't know what we're getting. Hopefully we're getting the tendencies we saw from the Rams. And it could just be like, Jesus Christ, this team has a wealth of weapons. The offensive line has some continuity to it, or he's scheming around the weak parts of it. They have there's a top 5 running back, a top 3 receiver. Thielen is a great compliment. You have Osborne and Rieger now. You have a tight end. Like, I'm worried that this Vikings offense is too good to get this one home at a lower number. That's probably an edge case week 1, but maybe part of this is just because I did my home draft in, back home with like 11 raging Vikings fans, and we day drank for 2 days straight, and all I heard about was this sort of stuff. But I think there's plenty of people plenty of smart folks I know that bet, Jefferson leading receiver, Jefferson offensive player of the year, Minnesota Vikings tickets to make the Super Bowl, win the NFC. Like, this offense could be very good, and I don't believe this defense has a chance to be good. So I'm a little scared of this. I agreed with the move. I agree with your sentiment. I think those things are going to rear its head maybe a little deeper into the season. So we'll see. We'll see what KOC. I'm going to definitely watch this. This is the late game. I'm more excited about this late game than KC at Arizona. I think you're going to win your bet by 1,000,000 points there. Arizona hasn't had an ounce of good luck. So Vikings love the teaser leg. If there's sentiment to the under, and the one reason I'm worried about it is because the Vikings offense might thrash a little. How does that teaser lose, I guess, then? So
that's a great point, man. So I love the Vikings.
You don't buy your liquor at Target, JetBlue.
I love the Vikings offense over the balance of the season, but this is
to see it happen immediately would be very low.
Yeah, this is the matchup of death too. This is like the least excited I am to see them match up against a given team. So we'll see. Great game though. Lean Packers, like the under. KC at Arizona.
You bet -3. It's 6 at some places. Kudos to you. That is the correct market sentiment. And then every time you saw it move up, every time you saw it move, 6 hours later, more bad news for the Cardinals. A lot of injuries.
Yeah, well, you want to go through them real quick?
I mean, just off the bat, their best receiver, and this is known for many, many, many moons, their best receivers out for a few games. J.J. Watt, was it hammy?
Yeah.
Is that what we're looking at for multiple weeks for that? And God, what were the other ones today? I have to pull it up.
Yeah.
Defense? Were they both defensive?
Yes. I need to get my tabs sorted out here. No, it's not been good news any way you want to slice it for the Arizona Cardinals. This is a flat 6 after being a juicy 3 within the last month. And that's the first couple of nudge, the 3 to 3.5. I was like, yes. The rest, to 5.5, I was kind of like, all right, yeah, there's some steam chasing going on here, whatever. None of those numbers really matter. To see it hit a flat 6 is like, okay, now this is a very solid position. I'm very excited to see how this plays out. Love where I'm at on this game. Kansas City's offense is a huge question mark and has had time to prepare a specific game plan for a defense that is bottom 5 as currently rostered in terms of available bodies. You're going to give Pat Mahomes all the time in the world, and he can pick apart a secondary that features some questionable cornerbacks. And they have They get to deploy a new set of weapons in unique ways that are unexpected. You don't have on film. Like, all that is music to my ears for a week 1 matchup that favors the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Andy Reid and company get it done in style. Team total over. Can they make it high enough here? Is it going to be 31? Where are we at?
Stunting on these hoes.
53.5 is the total. -6 divided by 2 plus 6 is 29.75. So we're probably going to see a 29.5 juice to -120 to the
Bookmaker
over.
not have this up, or excuse me, Bet Online not have it. I feel like they're terribly early with these as far as the offshore world.
Oh, I don't know.
And
They
this
didn't pop on my screen.
again,
So
we're not gonna we preach this about everything in life, but shop around, and boy, team totals are high on the spectrum of things you need to shop around for, because
Oh yeah, very
I
much
mean
so.
they'll be like, I mean, there'll be team totals on both sides of a key number. Like, well, there'll be a 16.5 and a 17.5 with similar juice sometimes. It's just wild how all over the board some of these are. So do look around for that. And I'll start to hunt a little. No,
Yeah.
Bet Online has no team totals up outside.
This
of
feels
the
like
Thursday game.
This feels like the full game total comes in pretty close, but it's more like 33-20, 34-20, 33-21, 34-21. That it's going to come in, I think, pretty close to that 53.5. I think the Chiefs cover, and I think we're cooking with gas early with the Chiefs this season. Very, 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 very interested in what that KC versus LAC Thursday night football game week 2 opens. Because as of right now, we're looking at flat threes.
Damn 69.com new AI date. What is AI dating?
Maybe the artificial intelligence finds your perfect match.
Sex bots. Well, I wonder what cues them. Shout out 69 Mega. Good job. You're here. So, yeah, great to move. Longer, more macro. I really think the Cardinals might be a mess.
Yeah.
That's a sneaky look, because where the market rates them compared to Seattle, I might look for a spot where they finish 4th. I think you get a big number on that. So well within their range of possibilities. Is just absolutely collapsing this year. Mid-season firing. Quarterback is not injured enough, but he's putting himself on the shelf because he knows it's a lost season. So it could be a messy season. I'm down for it. I'm here for it, as the children say. And let's go back to SoFi, the site of Thursday's game. Boy, do you think the grass will be torn up a little?
No,
because they already played a game.
It's grass is that's turf, and it's beautifully.
And I worry about Lightning, but I think it was this game that was the Lightning last year. This is another one I bet yesterday. I took an over 52, and I tell you what, J.C. Jackson missing this game would just be a cherry on top for that. I think he has a chance to play, but boy,
no, I think he's out.
I think I'm putting it like 20-80 that he plays. They say like, oh, he's out of his boot and he could. I'm like, oh, bullshit. It's like, I don't think he plays. So
I don't think
that would be nice. There's still 52s out there. Bookmaker still has a 52 flat. I like this for a bunch of reasons, and a lot of it does revolve around the Raiders offense and Derek Carr. He was fine against pressure for a lot of the season. The last 2 seasons, he was great. Especially, he was top 5 2 years ago against pressure, as far as just his efficiency metrics. He was top 3 for scrambling yards per scramble when he does get flushed and has to run. People don't think of him as some running quarterback, but when he is forced to, he was getting 8.5 a carry. So I like a lot of things about what this Vegas offense can do against a team who's, if you can beat this pass rush and the secondary's dinged up a little, just, I guess, worry about Derwin because he's amazing and do what you do. But this offense has been low key kind of good. You brought in a coach who's, I think, is dead serious about making this offense even better. And what are we going to say about, what are you going to say about the Chargers? Like when they're fully healthy, Eckler has a chance to be, the highest scoring fantasy back in the league. Like he's right there he's kind of getting this 1A look with Taylor and CMC, but he's right there, and they have the weapons. They have Herbert. A little bit of worrisome spots on the line here and there, but I make this total like 54. So I bet this over 52.
This has been, you did. Okay. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck.
Yep, bet it yesterday.
Support that. I also think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I think it'll take a couple of weeks until we get elite Chargers D if we ever see it. Some of that's JC Jackson. Some of that's scheme questions I have for these guys. I am cooling on their pass rush, and I am warming on their offense. I think this Chargers offense is going to be able to get to 30, no problema. And I think the Raiders are going to be able to go score and answer. This should be a very, very fun game. I think it lands inside the 4, but not inside the 3. So somebody wins here by a field goal. Most likely outcome, Chargers win by a field goal. Second most likely outcome, Vegas wins by a field goal. We saw these two teams play almost to a tie not that long ago. Since then, I think the Vegas Raiders have improved their offense. I think the Chargers also should show some improvement here. Interesting push-pull on the side. It's kind of fluttering around that 3.5, depending on whether you want to lay a gigantic price for -3 or take the cheap 3.5. I will just say it is not profitable long-term in the NFL to buy points. So don't do it. It is especially not profitable in the NFL to buy points when you have a total that is in the 53 ballpark. The hook is the least important up here. High variance game. You got a lot of scores, missed extra points. Brandon Staley might go for 2. Might go for 2 a couple of times. Like this is potentially going to get weird in terms of final score. So I don't think in any way, shape, or form, if you like the Raiders, you should pay the gross price for the 3.5. And I don't think you should pay the gross price on the Chargers for the 3. Just suck it up if you're going to play a side, and play a side closer to a -105 or +100 price. That's all I have to say about that. Long term, I think if you generally use a philosophy of taking the dog in AFC West matchups over the balance of the season, you're going to be pretty satisfied with your results at the end of the season. The distance between these teams in general, I think, is pretty narrow. Familiarity is somewhat there, even though you have a new regime for the Raiders. Very just excited to watch this game. It's going to be a great one. This one in Green Bay on the side screens, assuming that Casey's going my way, is going to be just a terrific Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Cannot wait.
Points. Hoping for the points, and we'll get into the Sunday game. We'll touch on Monday night. Sunday night, something like the T-shirt from Willy Wonka.
Anything that would happen, real quick, before we move off Chargers, anything that would happen in the Chargers-Raiders game, injury accepted, that would change your opinion of how Chargers-Chiefs match up on Thursday Night Football?
If the offensive line is considerably worse than we're worried about,
for the Chargers,
Chiefs can run, or Chiefs can rush the quarterback. So
okay. All right, Sunday Night Football. Biggest position of the week for me is this under. I'm nervous. Buyback came today. I was expecting it at some point.
I was hoping for it because I missed it, and I want in on this under.
Good.
I have talked myself into this, and I'm like, I missed the best of the number. I want this back, and yeah, I'm probably getting involved in this. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So, and here's my question to you, and I'll let you handle this whole handicap because I think we're on the exact same page as this. Am I more likely to get the best number now, or should I wait because it's a Sunday night game and a bunch of drunken assholes will be mad about losing all their afternoon games and hammer this standalone over? You think I could get a 52 and a half come Sunday night, or just find the best number now?
I think it depends if Godwin plays or not. My read between the lines on his statement is that he's not. What's your read?
Yeah. I don't think he plays. And that's a big part of this too, is if you are hurting up front and you're hurting in the wide receiver core, let's play underneath. Let's take away some of the worrisome parts about trying to beat the secondary. Play underneath. Use a lot of Lenny. And then Dallas is in the same damn boat. Both teams are very mirrored on as far as the issues they're finding themselves in early in the season, despite having good quarterbacks, may want to play some, hey, let's dink and dunk and play underneath and not be the team that makes the big mistake by having to try to steal a big chunk of the field with some deep passes. So I think I think, especially if Godwin's out, I think that's what you see from both teams. And this total might fly under. I might be over worried about getting a good number here. We might not even hit the mid 40s.
Okay. I love that's music to my ears. That is what I would like to see happen. Would make me that would put a bow on my Sunday without question. The Buccaneers are coming in depleted, but in a lot better shape than I had assumed was on the range of possibilities as of 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Brady was not in camp. The wide receivers were all dealing with things. The offensive line was in shambles, and they've had time to kind of start to put things back together, but they still don't have they still haven't had a ton of practice and kind of meaningful reps to really get things, into regular season mode. And I think overall the vision is treat this like preseason. For the Tampa Bay offense in particular, Tampa Bay defense, I feel the opposite about. Those guys look healthy. They look nasty. They are underrated by market, and they match up well against a Dallas team that doesn't have their starting left tackle, doesn't have a depth at offensive line at all, and in general wants to be a little bit more of a balanced team run pass in the absence of some weapons in the wide receiver room. So I think every injury breaks for an under here. I think both teams in both quarterbacks, the dink and dunk you mentioned is very on the table. I think who's going to have 8 or 9 targets in this game. Fat Leonard is going to have 8 or 9 targets in this game. Put that in the books. I think because that's Brady's go-to. We're getting disrupted with the pass rush up the middle. Like, we're going to go to the screen game. He's just screen. Like, there, if things are going sideways for them, that's what you're going to see a lot of. I don't think that there's going to be a ton of explosive plays in this one. The Tampa Bay defense does stop the run well. We all know this. Does not going to affect Mike McCarthy's approach at all. They're still going to try to run into a brick wall. And the Tampa Bay defense, Tampa Bay defense also aggressive with their pass rush. They leave their cornerbacks on islands. If they ultimately have to use Winfield as a second, a shade on CeeDee Lamb so that Carlton Davis doesn't get exposed or whatever, that seems like a reasonable approach. But I'm not worried about the other guys doing much to disrupt your. I guess Jamel Dean is probably your CB1. But whatever the case is, Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis were not healthy for a lot of last year. And I think that's what people are missing a little bit about the Buccaneers' defensive strength. This is going to be an ugly one. I'm hopeful that it's decided late by a field goal, and that
if you had to pick a side, just let's pretend the Bucs weren't laying straight up.
Dallas.
I'd lean the other way a little, just because of Dallas's insistence to run into stacked boxes full of giant Polynesian fellas who are going to take up 3 people at once. Like, good luck, have fun. Good game.
I'm considering price, so at plus 121.
I'm saying if I could get minus 110,
gotta take Dallas.
The Bucs, I'd take it. So
yeah, I make this as currently rostered. Tampa, my number is Tampa 54%. Dallas 46. So at plus 121, I had to take Dallas.
Fair enough. All right, we need a secret pod team total play before we go to bed here. long one today, but we had to do a little housekeeping, and there's no bye week yet. God help us. Let's get to the buys so we don't have to do 15 damn games. Is it just going to be the Jets? Is it going to be
Jets
the Dallas
under?
Is it going to be the Chargers over? Is it going to be the
Dallas under
Dallas
feels
under?
pretty good. I already have a lot on the under. I don't need another bet in that game.
I know, but we're thinking about the people here.
Yeah. I have to bet it, though. I'm not going to not bet it.
No, I mean, I was bet it.
The implied total for the Dallas game is going to be, let's say it's 52. 2 minus 2.
Under 24.5 Dallas is a play for me.
Oh, is that where you see it? That's what you're saying?
If that's what I can get. If it's minus 20 or better.
Okay. I'm gonna stick with the Jets. The Jets aren't getting to 20 points, guys.
Okay.
Jets
Look
team.
at that. Let's have two.
Jets team total under.
You know what? Just like they used to have two Monday Night Football games, we're gonna have two today. We're gonna do Jets team total under, Cowboys team total under.
Joe Flacco, prove me wrong.
Zeke Elliott, eat some cereal. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. I'm gonna go pack. I got to get up in about 6 hours to get on a flight.
Great pod. Good job.
And I'll see if you're out in Vegas, wave at me. I'll be in the Circa. And looks like Carlitos might break here. It's been a long first set already. There's no chance I'm staying up for this entire ATP match. Good luck, Yannick. Good luck, Carlos.
If you didn't already know, these players are evenly matched.
Yeah, very so. So good luck to everybody this year, and hit us up on Twitter, hit us in the Discord, hit us in the DMs, hit us in the YouTube chat, hit us in the YouTube comments. I hope you guys have the best year of your lives, and we'll check you tomorrow night at halftime.
I keep forgetting we get to do Thursday night football.
Cool new intro, but still just chill. This is the Vita Vea music. Who is that really fat Hawaiian guy who played the